So in the earlier video we saw the functions of the blood. Now we see with the composition of the blood. The blood consists of first plasma, fluid part containing 55 to 60% of the blood. So the blood, if we see, the first thing it contains is plasma, which is around 55 to 60% of the blood. So 55 to 60% of the blood is plasma. Cellular elements, red and white cells and platelets, which are 40 to 45%. So the other one is cellular. So this one was first part. Second one is cellular. So cellular part is the balance, that is nothing but the 40 to 45% of the blood. About the plasma is a light yellow colored alkaline liquid. It mainly consists of water, which is 90 to 92% water, proteins 78%, inorganic salts 1%, and other soluble in small traces. So we can see that other substances is just, so we can say mainly the plasma is 90% water. Okay, so yeah, 90 to 90% of plasma is water. Otherwise, there are 7 to 8% of proteins and insoluble salts and other substances. The inorganic salts include mainly sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate. So it's sodium chloride and sodium bicarbonate are the insoluble salt, inorganic salts which are present in this one, which is the 1% of that thing. And among other substances contained in the plasma are glucose, amino acids, fibrinogen, hormones, urea, etc. So whatever is that. Now this cannot be exactly stated because it will depend upon what kind of blood, from where we are taking the blood, because if it is near to the endocrine system, then it will be having some hormones in it. It will be, if it is near the excretory system, then will be having nitrogen waste and other things like it. So depending upon where exactly we are taking the blood from, the other substances ka jo percentage hai, that will differ, and what the contents is going to differ. The plasma from which the protein fibrinogen has been removed is called as a serum. So yes, from this particular plasma, if we are removing the protein, so if the protein that is, which is there, the plasma from which the protein fibrinogen, so the fibrinogen protein, if it is removed, then the plasma what is going to remain, that is 90-95% jo baki rahega, that will be called as a serum. So a serum is going to be the one in from which the fibrinogen, from blood from which the fibrinogen has been removed, is called as the serum. Now I talk about the cellular part. So cellular part is this way. The formed of cellular elements, that is shaped structures visible under magnification of the blood, are of three categories. One is red blood cells. So the first one is RBC, that is the red blood cells, also called as erythrocytes. Okay, so erythrocytes are the red blood cells, RBC. Second one is WBC, that is the white blood cells, also called as leukocytes. Sorry, K. Leukocytes, and finally are the platelets. So the platelets are called as thrombocytes. Okay, so the three kinds of cells which are present in the blood are the red blood cells, erythrocytes, the white blood cells, leukocytes, and platelets called as thrombocytes. Okay, these are the three kinds of cells what we are having in our body, in our blood. First, let us understand about the red blood cells, that is RBC. They are the oxygen carrier. Okay, so the main purpose of these is, or the main function of this thing, that they are oxygen carriers of our body. Red blood cells are also called as erythrocytes, where erythro means red. These are minute biconcave, याद है? Biconcave. concave, concave, biconcave. Okay, so that is how biconcave. Disc-like structures, flat in the center and thick at the round and rounded at the periphery. Now, somewhat, I would not call it exactly, but somewhat similar to a pizza. If you are taking a pizza from Domino's or not, so it's always like that, you know, thicker, sides thicker, and then dips inside. But of course, only thing is that they are flat from bottom. Yeah, they are not flat, but they are concave. So that kind of a disc-like structure is what the RBCs are made up of. These, so minute biconcave disc-like structures, flat in the periphery and thick and rounded at the side and thick at the center, and rounded and thick and rounded at the periphery. These are very small, about 7 microns in diameter. 1 micron is 1,000th of a millimeter and is represented by micro. So this is micron. So this is 1 micron, mu micron, which is nothing but mu. Okay, so that is micron, not micrometer. The small size plus the concavity on either side provide a larger surface area, which makes them very efficient in absorbing oxygen. See, because it's a small size, they are able to travel in the very smallest capillaries of the blood capillaries. At the same time, because they are minute and concave, that's they are having a more surface area. See, if it is like this, then the surface area is only this one. But if it is bent like this, the surface area थोड़ा increase होगा, क्योंकि sides का भी ज़्यादा मिलेगा, so curvature मिलेगा. So the increase is the surface area, and hence they become a very good oxygen carrier. The small size enables the red blood cells to travel through very fine capillaries in the body, where they have to travel in single files. So they travel in a single file, एक के बाद एक पीछे पीछे. अगर समझो ये एक ट्यूब है, तो if this is the tube, तो they will travel like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ऐसे travel करेगा. So that's in a single file. They are able to travel in a single file in the small capillaries because they are in such particular manner. Okay, they are of that particular shape. An adult human male has about 5 million RBCs per cubic mm of blood, and an adult female has slightly less, about 4.5 million. So yeah, around 5 million or 4.5 million, that is in 1 cubic mm. Cubic mm, almost like a dot. एक dot of blood is around 1 mm by 1 mm का 1 mm का रहेगा ये अगर एक drop. So not even that, in fact 1 drop is slightly more than that, but एक dot ऐसे किया रहेगा, तो yes, it will be so much. In this, there are 5 million RBCs in males and around 4.5 million RBCs in females. So we can understand what is a huge quantity of RBCs present in our body. Now we talk about what is present in the RBC. That is hemoglobin. The effective chemical constituent of RBC, that is hemoglobin. The red blood cells have the colorless spongy body or stroma, which contains a respiratory pigment, hemoglobin. So as such, if we talk about the structure of the RBC, the structure of the RBC is colorless, transparent. But it is the presence of a pigment, this particular respiratory pigment, which is the hemoglobin, which is giving the red color to the blood. The hemoglobin is formed of iron containing part hemin means iron, and a protein called globin. So there is a hemoglobin. Hemin means the iron, and the globin is the protein. So that's why it is a protein, iron contained protein, which is present in the RBC called as hemoglobin. It has the ability to combine readily with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin as an unstable compound, which readily gives oxygen to the needy tissue. So main thing is that the hemoglobin is going to combine with oxygen. It is readily able to combine with oxygen to form an unstable compound called oxyhemoglobin. Now the reason for it to be an unstable is that if it would have been stable, then it will not be able to give away the oxygen to the needy tissue. But here, because it's an unstable compound, oxygen can immediately go to another particular organ or the tissue where oxygen is required. So the hemoglobin does not react completely with the oxygen, but it is just a carrier of the oxygen from to the different parts of the body. Hemoglobin can carry a very small quantity of carbon dioxide in the form of carb aminohemoglobin. So yes, apart from oxygen, it can also contain certain amount of carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide, it is doing so for the removal of the carbon dioxide from the body to the lungs. Okay, there is some kind of a note over here. Is it correct to say that the veins carry carbon dioxide and no oxygen? No, it is not true. Veins too carry oxygen, but only a little, very little less than an artery. So inside the lungs, the hemoglobin becomes 97 to 99% saturated with oxygen. Inside the respiratory tissue, the HP, hemoglobin releases only about 23% of its oxygen, and the blood returns in the veins still contains about 75% oxygen. And if you remember correctly, I don't know how many of you would remember your respiratory chapter, the respiratory system chapter of 9th standard. It was given over there that the air what we inhale has got 20% oxygen in it, whereas the one what we exhale is not that it has got no oxygen in it, it has got 16% oxygen. That means only 4% of the oxygen from the air has been utilized by the body. Other 16% is given back. Okay, so that's why we only say that the air what we inhale is rich in oxygen, and the air we exhale is not that there is absence of oxygen, it is only rich in carbon dioxide and less amount of oxygen, but it will contain oxygen in them. So that's why we can never say that the veins do not contain oxygen. The veins do contain oxygen. Only thing is the percentage of oxygen in them is slightly less. That is about 25% less than what was present in the arteries. Now we see something which is important called as the carbon monoxide poisoning. Now we know that carbon dioxide is poisonous to our body. Now why is it so? It so happens that hemoglobin has got a strong affinity with carbon monoxide. Hemoglobin, when it reacts with carbon monoxide, it forms into a stable compound. And because it forms a stable compound, the oxygen carriers of our body are automatically reduced, because जो hemoglobin का capacity है oxygen को carry करने का, वो क्योंकि it has got combined with the carbon monoxide, and hence it is no longer going to carry oxygen, and accordingly the body will be deprived of oxygen, and that is how the body will automatically get poisoned. So that is why it is what is called as carbon monoxide poisoning. So carbon monoxide poisoning is mainly because of the affinity of the carbon monoxide with hemoglobin to form a stable compound, that is carboxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin has very strong affinity for carbon monoxide, forming a stable compound, carboxyhemoglobin. This cuts down the capacity of the blood to transporting oxygen, sometimes resulting in death. Yes, because hemoglobin, which has the capacity to become oxyhemoglobin, is already formed into carboxyhemoglobin, which is a stable compound, not an unstable compound like oxyhemoglobin. It's now a stable compound, and क्योंकि वो stable compound है, इसलिए वो carbon monoxide वहाँ से बाहर निकलता नहीं है, and accordingly that hemoglobin is utilized by the body for carrying the carbon monoxide. So the body is deprived of the oxygen carriers, and hence the body gets poisoned. So for example, carbon monoxide poisoning may cause death due to the furnace burning in small room without ventilation. Life and death of RBCs. So now we talk about the life cycle of RBC. Now RBC is not going to remain. ऐसा नहीं है कि RBC अपने बच्चे के birth हुआ तब से जो है वो अभी तक है ना. It is not that way. RBC has got a specific kind of a life cycle, that is of 120 days. Now first of all, in adult, the RBCs are produced in the marrow of long bones, especially the ribs, breastbone and ilium of hip girdle. So all our long bones, okay, all our long bones that are nothing but the thigh bone, so the thigh bone, the ribs, the breastbone, the ilium of the hip girdle, ये सभी जो है, these are the one which are long bones which contain a cavity in between which is called as the bone, which has got the fluid called as the bone marrow. So it is the marrow of the bone which is going to produce RBC. In an embryo stage, they are produced in the liver and the spleen. So when the baby is in the embryo stage, so in that case, it is going to be not produced by, because they don't have the long bones. So that's why it is going to be produced by the liver and the spleen. Whereas the child, where the RBC will be produced by all the bones because they do not have any long bones. So in a child, the RBC are produced in the bone marrow of all bones until the age of 5 years. So till the age of 5 years, the body is going to produce the RBCs from all the bones what the body has. The mature RBCs, red blood cells, have no nuclei, but when they are being produced, they have one. As they mature, the nuclei are lost, that is, they become enucleated. So this is very important. When the RBC is born, okay, when the RBC is first generated, at that time, it has got a nucleus of it. But after that, once it matures, the nucleus automatically gets disintegrated and that is enucleated. The RBC becomes enucleated. Now the reason behind it is that if nucleus would have been present, then the size of the RBC would have increased. And then it will not be possible for the nucleus, for this particular RBC to travel in the smallest capillaries. So as such, nucleus of any particular cell is mainly required for cell division, whereas RBCs do not divide by itself. The RBCs are not going to be formed by cell division. They are going to be generated by this bone marrow. So it's a bone marrow which generates the RBC. So RBC by themselves don't require cell division at all. That's the reason nucleus is not required for the RBCs. The average life of RBC is about 120 days. The old and weak cells are destroyed in the spleen, liver and bone marrow. Their iron part is retained in the liver while the rest is excreted as the bile pigment bilirubin. So it is seen that the average life of a RBC is 120 days. The RBC is going to be living for 120 days. उसके बाद वो अपने आप disintegrate हो जाएगा. When it disintegrates, the iron part is going to be retained, whereas the other parts is going to be excreted out by the liver or spleen or the bone marrow. In a normal adult, approximately, okay, it is 20 crore RBCs, 20 million RBCs are destroyed every minute. Every minute. 20 million RBCs are going to be killed in our body every minute. That means every minute that many number of RBCs is going to be generated also, right? Because the lifespan is 120 days. So उसके हिसाब से उसका पूरा cycle चलता है कि 20 million अगर एक मिनट में खत्म हुआ तो 120 days उसका खत्म हुआ रहेगा. Something like that. In other words, about 1% of the total erythrocytes in the body are destroyed every day. Every day 1% of that particular thing is going to be destroyed. So because we can consider that 120 days का उसका cycle है, तो 100 अगर गिना तो yes, within 100% अगर है तो उसका 1%, that is one. That's why we call it as 1% every day is going to be destroyed. Now now we see that the one particular note is given over here, that is about the importance of why or the structure of the RBC and why it is not having the nucleus or the mitochondria or the endoplasmic reticulum. So a mammalian red blood cell, when mature, circulate in the blood system and are devoid of certain organelles. They are no nucleus, no mitochondria and no endoplasmic reticulum. There is no nucleus, no mitochondria, nor any endoplasmic reticulum. Let's see why. Thus, though deficient of the above organelles, the mature red blood cells in relativity are more efficient in carrying out their task of picking up and delivering oxygen. The factors make them more efficient in the way as follows. First, loss of nucleus. Loss of nucleus makes the red blood cell biconcave, thus increasing the surface area volume ratio for absorbing more oxygen. Space in between increases and more RBCs can be accommodated in the same space. So you can see by enucleation, what is going to happen is first of all, it will no longer be spherical, it will be biconcave. Biconcave is a lesser space required, more surface area, more number of RBCs in a smaller area. So accordingly, it is seen that it is more efficient when it is not having the nucleus present in it. Loss of mitochondria means the red blood cells cannot use the oxygen for themselves. See, mitochondria, we know mitochondria. What is the mitochondria used for? Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. What it does the work of respiratory enzyme. That means it is going to use the oxygen to generate ATP, not a problem. But ATP का उसको generation करने जाएगा तो वो खुद ही इतना ऑक्सीजन ले लेगा that the body में वो दूसरे लोगों के लिए deprive हो जाएगा. So because RBCs are in so many millions. So if these RBCs, each and every RBC has got its own mitochondria and they are going to utilize the oxygen which is there in the body, then the body will be deprived of the oxygen. That's the reason the RBCs do not have a mitochondria, so that there is no requirement of the oxygen for the RBC itself. So loss of mitochondria means that the red cells cannot use oxygen for themselves. Cellular respiration occurs in mitochondria. Thus, all the oxygen absorbed from the lungs is transported and delivered to the tissues unconsumed. Okay, there is no consumption of oxygen by the RBC itself. Whatever is the oxygen is taken in is distributed completely into the body. Secondly, loss of mitochondria means full transport of glucose in the blood plasma unused by the RBC. Yes, as I told you, the glucose also will be unused and they will be easily transported to the complete body. So that is about mitochondria. Thirdly, no endoplasmic reticulum means increased laxity. See, endoplasmic reticulum क्या करता था? Endoplasmic reticulum याद है ना तुम लोग को? सेल को ऐसे पकड़ के रखता था, उसका शेप देता था उसको. Now you don't want a shape. If you have a shape, then automatically you have to squeeze out through more small places. So it gives more flexibility if the cell does not contain endoplasmic reticulum. So accordingly, see that no endoplasmic reticulum means increased flexibility of RBCs for their movement through narrow capillaries. So yes, this is how the endoplasmic reticulum, absence of endoplasmic reticulum is helpful for the RBCs. Now more number of RBCs. Newborn infants have a large number of RBCs, about 6 to 7 million per cubic mm. RBC count is lower by 5% during sleep. RBC count is higher during physical activity, pregnancy and emotional upsets. People living at a height of 4,200 meters and above increase their RBCs by nearly 30%. Abnormally increased number of RBCs is called as polycythemia. Polycythemia, and their abnormally decreased number is called as erythropenia. So yeah, these are certain things about the RBC. If the number of RBCs, normally the number of RBCs are more in newborn, the newborn will have more number of RBCs as they require more amount of oxygen, and the RBC count is going to be 5% lower in case of sleep, because your body does not require that much amount of oxygen and the content, so that's why it is less. Whereas when it will be higher when you are doing some physical activities, yes, so it will be an emotions, the pregnancy here, the emotional upsets, so RBC level will automatically increase. And those people who are living at a height more than 4,200 meters above the earth's surface, they will also have more number of RBCs, because the oxygen content in the air is less, hence more RBCs will be required to carry the oxygen to the body. So they will have an increased number of others. And also there's two diseases. So if the increase in the RBCs, abnormal increase in the RBCs is there, then it is called as polycythemia, and the abnormal decrease in the RBCs is called as erythropenia. So that was about the RBC. Now we move on to the white blood cells. So I think we can do it in the next video.